The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. Greetings and welcome to the Personal Safety Show. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor and Stress to Logic, your host. And this weekend is Memorial Day weekend. A lot of people are out barbecuing, spending time with their families, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a great thing that everyone gets together. But I want to talk about what Memorial Day is. And obviously it's an American holiday. It used to be on a specific date, but it was changed to the last Monday of May, which is tomorrow. So it was originally known as Decoration Day, and it started in the years following the Civil War and became an official federal holiday in 1971. And a lot of Americans observe it by visiting cemeteries or memorials, holding family gatherings, participating in parades, and kind of unofficially, it's the beginning of the summer season. So there's also a difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Veterans Day, we thank the people who served, and I always thank people who served. But Memorial Day is a day to remember the soldiers who fell in battle or who died in battle. So I wouldn't approach someone in the military and be like, "Oh, happy Memorial Day, thank you for your service," because it's not appropriate. Back to the origin. The Civil War at the time claimed more lives than any conflict in U.S. history and actually required the establishment of the country's first national cemetery. By the late 1860s, various towns and cities across the country started holding springtime tributes to the fallen soldiers, decorating their graves with flowers and reciting prayers. So it's kind of unclear where the tradition originated. Different communities may have independently initiated the memorial gatherings, and some records show that one of the earliest Memorial Day commemorations was organized by a group of formerly enslaved people in Charleston, South Carolina, less than a month after the Confederacy surrendered in 1865. Nevertheless, in 1966, the federal government declared Waterloo, New York, the official birthplace of Memorial Day. So Waterloo, which celebrated the day on May 5th, 1866, was chosen because it hosted an annual community-wide event during which businesses closed and residents decorated the graves of soldiers with flowers and flags. So whatever you happen to be doing this weekend, if you're visiting a cemetery, if you're hanging out with friends, if you're hanging out with a barbecue with family members, going to a pool, enjoy the weekend. And I wanted to educate everyone on the meaning of Memorial Day. So it's a great weekend, beginning of the summer. I absolutely love it. But I wanted to start the show on a positive note because, boy, am I fired up about something. And I want to share it with you. What I am fired, and I've avoided the topic in general on the show, but I'm feeling that my guts are telling me I can't keep my mouth shut anymore. So let me start by applauding Bartlett High School. Wow. Bartlett High School's principal, who's an interim principal, Elgin Area Unit District 46 Superintendent Suzanne Johnson, reported late Wednesday to a public outcry about a controversial photo in Bartlett High School's yearbook, saying the message included in the picture, quote, did not reflect the values and beliefs of Bartlett High School and School District U46. The district is going to resume distribution of yearbooks, which were delayed over a photo that the interim principal described as offensive and anti-Semitic. The superintendent did not specify whether the photo has been removed or when the yearbooks would be available. Though the district has not publicly identified the photo, members of the school's Muslim Student Association posted the photo they believe to be the point of contention on social media. In the photograph, a group of students hold a Palestinian flag and two signs. One of the signs reads, "In our hundreds, in our millions, we are all Palestinian." And the other reads, "From the river to the sea." We regret to inform you that an offensive photo was included in this year's school yearbook, said Melanie Meidel, the interim principal. Quote, one of our top priorities is the well-being and respect of our students, staff, and community. Regrettably, we have become aware that the yearbook printed a photo containing text that is considered anti-Semitic. So good on the district, good on the leadership, but what teacher was actually supervising this, who didn't run it by anyone? Shame on that teacher. Now, I love teachers. My wife is a teacher. They do a great job, but holy cow, how do you let this out? If this was anti any other group, doesn't matter what the group is, they would have been blasted. But again, Jews are not considered a minority that we can actually protect. That said, the university professors said, well, if we talk about Jews, it depends on the context. Screw that. And you can tell I'm pissed. I'm fired up. You can hear my tone of voice. You can hear my language. I am not happy with this. Let me rephrase that. I am thrilled with the Bartlett High School. Now, Bartlett is not really a Jewish area. However, Glenbrook South in wonderful Northbrook is in a Jewish area, and they published something in their yearbook that made me disgusted, like throw up in my mouth. It says in the yearbook, and there's a photo of it as well, on October 7th, Hamas militants launched a cross-border attack on Israel. Hamas, a militant group, has controlled the Gaza Strip since 2007. The day of the attack, Israel declared war on Hamas. Okay, that's perfectly fine. And anytime a country is attacked by missiles, by rockets, by terrorism, they have the right to defend themselves. So there was a student there, 10th grade, which means she is a sophomore going into junior year. And she said, quote, and this is not someone, hey, sign my yearbook, and that's what they wrote. This is actually printed in the yearbook. She said, and I'm going to omit her name, in my opinion, it isn't a war, considering that this has been going on for 75 years. The first day I woke up, I saw what Palestine did, and I was happy, because they're finally defending themselves. The fact that the whole world only saw that instead of focusing on the past makes me sad, because it is my home country. It is important to speak up because thousands of people are dying every day. Just be aware and educate yourself. Well, I happen to think this student definitely needs an education on what the heck is going on. Israel has the right to its land for thousands of years before Islam came into being. Now, there's always this two-state solution. There are plenty of Muslim and Arab countries, like more than half a dozen. There is one Jewish country, which is okay because guess what? Jews are only 0.2% of the population. So that's smaller population, smaller land. But Israel is a peace-loving country. They do not go to war unless attacked. How can you say that for any other country? And anyone who attacks a country and then criticizes the attacked country for retaliating or responding really needs to get their head out of their rear end. I'm seeing anti-Semitism left and right. And my first real touch of anti-Semitism occurred in 1978, June of 1978. So almost to the day. I was at the Nazi march in Skokie. I was at the JCC Bernard Harwich Center on Church Street in Skokie. I grew up within walking distance from that place, and my parents brought me. Now, I have photos. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll post the photos over this content so that you can see. I have 3 photos that were in an album that, thank you, Jeannie Gardner, who is my sister, who pulled them for me from her crawl space. I was able to scan them, and I will share them on my YouTube page. So I was there. I was there when the Nazis were going to march. Now, keep in mind, I was in a stroller. I wasn't there as as an adult protesting. My parents brought me, and I'm just outside of the actual photo. The photographer is my father, and I'm just below him. But you can see people with helmets on, and there's a great movie on YouTube. I saw it when I was a little kid. I recently rewatched it, and it's called Skokie, and it's with Danny Kaye, Brian Dennehy, and it tells the story of the Nazis who wanted to march in Skokie. And if we were to quote Blues Brothers, I hate Illinois Nazis. I hate all Nazis. I hate all people who disparage other cultures. It's kind of funny, and in the movie Goldmember, Austin Powers' father says, there's only two things in the world I hate: intolerance of other cultures and the Dutch. And it's supposed to be funny, and it is a little bit funny. So he doesn't like intolerance, yet he is intolerant of the Dutch. So back to anti-Semitism. I would urge my listeners to support your Jewish coworkers, support your Jewish neighbors. The Jewish people got attacked. The Jewish people are still getting attacked. There are pundits out there who are justifying the Hamas war. Now, Hamas isn't even a state. It is a terrorist organization. Who would support a terrorist organization? I realize I'm on my soapbox, and I apologize for that. But at the same time, holy Moses, and I realize there's humor in that holy Moses comment. But how do you support a country that invades and attacks another country? How do you support Russia, who invaded and attacked Ukraine? Name a country. And I don't care what the country is. If they get attacked, they can respond. So please, please support everyone. Dr. Phil, it sounds like I'm changing the topic, but I'm not. Dr. Phil owns a new network called Merit Street Media. And it's a brand new, I don't get it at home. I watch it online. And I was contacted by a local reporter. Merit Street News wanted to do a story on how Jewish people, who traditionally are against guns politically, how they are now kind of turning over a new leaf and pursuing firearms training. And so they interviewed me. I did a lesson with Chaim and Basia Edelstein, and Chaim Edelstein has been on my show talking about life insurance and risk. And we went to RMG Guns in Mundelein. By the way, that is one of my favorite gun stores. I love the people there. Their customer service is top notch. And they allowed me to film in their training room. I'm sorry, they allowed the reporter to film in the training room and on the range. We were the only ones on the range. We did have an employee with us for safety, which was fantastic. I'd never, ever, ever turn down somebody who comes in to help promote safety. There's another range that I work with, and there are times where I have multiple people shooting, and the range officer will come over and he'll see something that maybe I don't because my attention is divided a little bit. And they will say, oh, hey, don't put your thumbs behind the slide, just so that they don't get hurt. I always, always appreciate that. It is absolutely fantastic and wonderful that people are safe and aware of safety. All right, so with that said, we are going to segue to some other topics in the show. I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress2logic.com. That is STRESS, 2LOGIC.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show. So since the show is about safety, I want to talk about carjackings and how to remain safe. In a situation of a carjacking, a car is stolen by a driver by using force, threats, or intimidation while the owner is in the car. Being the victim can quickly escalate and become very dangerous. So Sergeant Diogo Mello of the East Providence Police Department in Rhode Island offered some safety tips via email, what to do if you fall victim to a carjacking situation, and preventative measures that you can take to protect yourself. So if you're being carjacked, and this is any emergency, staying calm and resisting the urge to display combativeness towards the criminal is essential. Do not resist or be combative as it will put you in danger. The carjacker wants something from you, and they've already decided to take it by force. Cooperating and separating yourself from them and the car is essential. So keep in mind that the carjacker could have an addiction issue, crack, meth, and they could be paranoid, aggressive, delusional, which is a dangerous combination for victims who resist their demands. Even if you're in a state of panic, be panicking on the inside, not the outside. So try and gather as much information about the suspect as you can, such as physical features and characteristics like a tattoo or a scar, their height, their hair color, their eye color, if they have an accent, what they said, all these all these critical things for law enforcement. The only exception to complying with the carjacker's demands is if they try to force you into the vehicle. In such a situation, you must avoid going with them because they're going to take you to a secondary crime scene and do more to you, whether it's criminal sexual assault, murder, more robbery, make you go to an ATM at gunpoint. One of the best things that you can do for yourself to remain safe from carjacking and other crime is to always be aware of your surroundings. That is to be safe in any situation. Be aware of your surroundings. Staying vigilant is the most important thing you can do to avoid becoming a victim, though it's easier said than done. We're often distracted by our cell phones while walking, driving, or even stopped at traffic lights, even though it's illegal, making us oblivious to our surroundings. It can make us an easy target for criminals. When you're walking around at any time of day, make sure you can see and hear everything that is happening around you. There's different color codes of mental awareness. And in my classes, I asked everyone, hey, are you ever in condition white, which is someone who's unaware of any danger, they're oblivious to their surroundings? And everyone in the class, no, not me. And I say, ever try to open a produce bag and you can't? You are in condition white because we're concentrated. There's some additional tips and tricks. Always be aware of your surroundings and trust your gut. Keep your windows up and doors locked, especially when driving at high crime areas or at night. Whenever possible, don't drive alone. And when coming to a stop, leave enough room to maneuver around other cars if necessary. Now, I'm going to dovetail on this. Don't stop. If you're in a shady area, slow down half a block before the red light, and inch up, because this is one of the best things you can do. It is extremely difficult to approach a moving vehicle. So we're going to make it extremely difficult for these carjackers. When entering a potential target-rich environment, such as a parking garage, shopping plaza, bank, convenience store, gas station, park in well-lit areas. One of my first jobs, I worked security at a hospital, and maybe I took this a little too far, but I would get a call I had the master keys to open up a certain door, someone needed supplies or whatever, and on my way there, while I'm walking there, I would get the correct key in my hand. And one of my partners, he would tease me about that, but it is a street smarts thing. I wasn't in any danger there. But the same thing, when you're going to your car, don't go to your car, look in your purse, dig through it, find your key or key fob or however you're going to open your car. Have that in your hand before you get to your car, because that's the moment that people get attacked. Tracking and GPS software that's already built into newer vehicles can help recover the vehicle. But if your car isn't equipped with that, you can get an inexpensive tracker on Amazon, or you can just throw in an Apple tag, and then you can find your car. And avoid putting the tracker in the glove box or center console, because that's where the bad guys check first for valuable items. So in the trunk with the spare tire. It is always important to be aware of your surroundings. There are certain places where carjackings tend to happen more than others. To reduce the risk, again, parking in well-lit areas, and most carjackings occur between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. So doing things like neglecting to lock your vehicle, leaving it running, these are all dangerous things. I have a newer car, and I'm very fortunate because if I walk away from it and I don't lock it, I get a notification on my phone that says, hey, you didn't lock your car. Would you like to lock your car? And I can do it through my phone. And that's happened a couple times if I'm like carrying in groceries, or the car door's open but I'm in the garage and I'm messing around with stuff. That'll happen. I will get that notification. So the whole idea behind the show is to stay safe. So let's talk about gun-free zones. So I got this from a newspaper, the Firearm related newspaper, and I typically don't agree with a lot of what this newspaper says, but every once in a while, a clock is correct twice a day. So there's an article, Thoughts on Carrying in No Gun Areas. Now, I can never advocate carrying a firearm in a gun-free zone. I'm never going to advocate that to my listeners, to my students, because I'm not going to be responsible if they break the law. Non-permissive environments in Illinois is locations where someone doesn't want good guys to carry guns. There may be non-compliant signs that don't count, or they may be statutorily prohibited locations. Either way, the signs change the mindsets of police officers based on their attitudes and prejudices. This is important. If there's a call for a person with a gun or shots fired, police will rush into the location and look for someone with a gun, meaning you. Prohibited location or not, know that the responding officer's default mindset will likely be that anyone with a gun is probably a bad guy until proven otherwise. So don't be that guy. Now, this newspaper advocates concealed means concealed. I'm not advocating that at all. I'm advocating following the law. Now, just because there's a no gun sign doesn't mean it's a no pepper spray sign, or a no knife sign, or no other objects, not a tactical unbreakable umbrella. There's all sorts of other implements that can be used. Now, a firearm is probably the most effective. You can also carry a pepper gun. The trouble is with the pepper guns, and I just found this out just from conversation, is that they leak. They don't leak pepper, but the cartridge ends up leaking. So if you're going to carry in a burn gun in a no-gun zone, you're going to want to have a fresh carbon dioxide cartridge. So these no-gun signs amplify this prejudice of police officers. The stronger the security protocols, the stronger that the assumption only bad guys will have guns here will become for most cops. Because what good guy would or could carry past a metal detector, right? Sure, concealed carry non-believers will express skepticism that something bad will happen in a prohibited location, such as a hospital or entertainment venue. And they would be correct, but at the same time, they are blissfully unaware that off-site parking lots or parking structures are an entirely different animal. Parking lots are one of the 3 most likely locations for people to become the victims of violent crime in public. Gas stations are also on the list. Keeping a gun on one's person also keeps the gun out of the hands of a car burglar. The big takeaway, if you are a person with a gun, meaning it's in your hand for whatever reason, that has serious potential to be very hazardous to your health. The general rule for CCW holders is to get that gun reholstered as soon as possible, because every moment the gun is visible, the good guy with the gun is in danger of getting shot by another good guy, police officer or not. So if you're in one of those prohibited locations with your little friend, be forewarned to never draw it short of the "oh shucks, I'm going to die" moment. Then if the worst happens, get that thing put away as quickly as possible. You will save your own life by doing so quickly and safely as possible. Again, I do not advocate carrying in gun-free zones. I cannot, as a professional, say, oh, we're going to be a conscientious objector to the law and we're going to flout our nose to the law, just like local courts are kind of sticking their nose up to the Supreme Court with firearms cases. That's another story for another time.
So why did I bring this up? Well, it's to call baloney on some of these articles that you read in these firearm magazines, firearm newspapers. What happens is you've got a non-police officer writing about police procedure. And quite honestly, this article was 100% wrong. First of all, it advocated committing an illegal act, which is going into a gun-free zone, and it postulated incorrectly how a police officer would react to a person with a gun. Because I worked in law enforcement, my circle is mainly criminal justice people, and I asked several cops, and let me explain what one of the police officers said, and they were all like-minded. For me, I guess it would be how the dispatcher gave the call out, what was given, what was obtained, and location. I've been to calls with people carrying, and after verifying their concealed carry permit, I thanked them and shook their hand. Don't get me wrong, I'm always on high alert, but I wouldn't go into the situation with guns blazing. So, once again, be appreciative of what you read, but also be skeptical of what you read and verify yourself.
Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about more firearm topics when we return.